This episode of HTM Tech is brought to you by Rogue Energy. Rogue Energy offers a wide range of products including energy drinks and dietary supplements containing zero sugar, 0 to 5 calories, B vitamins, gluten-free, soy-free, and 100% vegan. Rogue Energy products are a great alternative to those corner store energy drinks that are loaded with sugar and cause you to crash soon after. Head over to rogueenergy.com where viewers of HTM Tech can get 10% off any order placed. Not just your first order, but any time you order. Just use offer code HTM Tech at the checkout to get your discount on one of the hottest energy drink brands on the market. Hey, don't take our word for it. Try it for yourself today.
Hey guys, Joe the Tech Guy back here with another episode of HTM Tech. Before we get into it all here this week, if you are new to the channel, please hit like and subscribe so that my channel can kind of get out to more people and boost up in that algorithm. We're going to get to some YouTube stuff here briefly, but before we do all that we're going to do here today, it's good to see you, man. It's been a little while, and looking forward to this week.
Yeah, man, it's always a good time. Sit down and BS with Joe the Tech Guy, and this one's kind of in my wheelhouse, so I'm looking forward to it.
For sure. So right off the hop here, mentioning, since we're you had mentioned BS, because I got an axe to grind with YouTube here today. So for those not in the know, myself, Mr. Jargo here, and some of our friends, we've done a lot of professional wrestling content on YouTube for several years with relatively little issues. We were a relatively small operation. What's become Turnbuckle Studios is a very small operation. Not a lot of subscribers. It's more of like a passion project. It's not something I no longer do, but with Carl and whatnot, it's very much a passion project that we just kind of do as a hobby, quite frankly. But recently, there's been some issues over at Turnbuckle Studios dealing with YouTube. I have the actual email that Carl received about this issue, and I'm going to read it here for you folks because this is quite something. So, hi, Turnbuckle Studios. We reviewed your content and found severe or repeated violations of our spam, deceptive practices, and scams policy. Because of this, we have removed you from YouTube. We know this is probably upsetting news, but it's our job to make sure that YouTube is a safe place for all. If we think a channel severely violates our policies, we take it down to protect others on the platform. But if you believe we've made the wrong call, you can appeal this decision. For more information about the policy in question and how to submit below. I'm at a loss for words for this because, even before we got here today, I watch a lot of YouTube, research for topics, what have you. And literally every time before a video and several times during a video, they had mentioned scam and deceptive policies and all that kind of stuff. That's all of the friggin' ads on YouTube are. And then they have the gall. They have that gall to take down a professional wrestling podcast that has done literally nothing wrong. And I mean literally nothing. It makes zero sense to me. What's your take on this?
When you told me about this, my response was, wait, what?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this ranks right up there with people that we know getting banned off of X, getting banned off of Twitter, whatever, for 30 days or whatever. But then, we'll still have the Ayatollah of Iran on there. It's just baffling to me with the amount of nonsense that goes out on YouTube. And yet a semi self-produced passion project, like you said, gets pulled for what? That's what I still don't understand, because as far as the spam thing goes, you guys would put out 1, maybe 2 episodes a week. So we're certainly not talking about spam. There was no scheming to it. It was a pro wrestling podcast.
Right.
The thing that's infuriating, and I deal with this on a pretty regular basis, people come in and they'd be like, I've been locked out of my Facebook account.
Right.
Well, I appealed it to Facebook. Great. Good luck with that. And it's the same thing with YouTube, right? Because it's has anybody ever tried to get a hold of Google? Like the customer service, certainly not their expertise, right? Because it's so much easier for somebody to just go open a new email address and, you can log into YouTube that way. For a content creator, it's a complete nightmare. But for 99.99999% of their regular users, I just go create another account. And it's impossible to get a hold of these people. Like, please, show me on the video where it hurt you, Google. That's the part that I'm not understanding. Like, for what?
Yeah, because I'm guessing on the date here, because I can't even pull up the channel because it's gone. It's sitting there in limbo. So Carl's still waiting to hear back. He appealed, and it was immediately denied. So what that tells me, that's a bot.
It's an auto-gen response.
So that's a bot saying, you, we're still right. Yeah. So what he had to do, he had to reach out. I'm still going to call it Twitter, X, whatever the you want to call it.
The artist formerly known as Twitter.
I'm going to do a lot of editing here this week, but this is genuinely pissing me off because it's something, not so much these days, but I mean, going back, a lot of time and energy invested in the platform. Excuse me, going back to, I think, at least 2017, if not a little bit further back.
Yeah.
I don't understand. And they're saying, oh, yeah, in a few days we'll get back to you. It's been about 3 or 4 days now, and he is still waiting. I can understand maybe if we were like making a lot of money off of this, but we're not. This is something that is purely passion.
It's not even monetized, is it?
It's not even monetized, right? Even my channel is not monetized, and I got a full on copyright strike for trying to show bits of the Apple keynote. Like, it just doesn't make sense. We're literally not making money off of this. I'm not making a single dime, and YouTube is just being so old school with this. That's as nicely as I can put it.
Well, and the thing I just don't get, man, and this is more like social media in general, not specifically to YouTube, right? You have children that are being sex trafficked, and we can't figure that out. But boy, you use that 3-second WWE clip, we got to take down your shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's baffling to me, just absolutely baffling.
And then, because you had mentioned social media, Facebook, especially, I try not to do much on Facebook because it's such a toxic environment.
But it's the best one of the bunch.
Right? But there's so many, I'll catch some flack with this, but so many female influencers on there. It's completely sexualized regardless of their age. And we're like, that's okay. But, you talk about, it came just about, there's literally on Turnbuckle Studios. The majority of the content is on professional wrestling. I don't understand where they're coming from. Spam and deceptive practices? Are you kidding me?
Right. Well, the only spam and deceptive practice is, covering, professional wrestling, which is in fact a scam and a deceptive practice. What other logical explanation is there, right?
No. So, we could rant about this for probably a long time, but I'm hoping that for their sake that they get it sorted, because it's a false claim. So like I don't even know, like, was the claim just generated automatically? Was it a bitter former person that we've done business with before? I don't know, but it's so absurd that something like that could happen to a channel that literally has done nothing wrong.
Right.
So
I'm with you, man.
So hopefully when this does, like, either way, I'll mention on the channel the outcome of this. I hope that it's going to be positive and YouTube just says sorry. I don't know. It's like, again, it's hard to even contact these people when you have an issue. So it is what it is. All right, man, let's get to the main reason why we're here this week. As you can see from the thumbnail in the episode here, is physical media, physical content, is it dead? We're at the hop here before we get to the details. Is it dead, Jargo?
Oh no, it's not dying, Joe. It's dead. Like, you can stick a fork in this thing. It's completely dead. Like, video killed the radio star, right? Streaming has killed physical media, with really one sole exception, but we'll get to that a little bit later on in the show.
For sure. Because you and I are similar in age, so we have some context with this. Because I mean, when we first started consuming content, it was likely for me, anyways, cassette tapes, VHS tapes of whatever. To now, just in a relatively short time, in half of our lifespan here, there's a major shift. Like it's happening relatively abruptly. Honestly, I mean, there's been kind of a move over the last little while, but some changes are happening very rapidly as well, because I see it doing retail work. To name one thing specifically, I mean, during the span of this year, Best Buy is getting out of physical media, and Walmart, starting with Xbox games, by the end of this year, Microsoft's not going to be selling their physical media in stores in Walmart's anymore. And Walmart's a big retailer. It's kind of crazy, man, thinking back to how we used to watch and listen to things. It's a big shift.
Well, I mean, even bigger than that, right? Like, looking at it in a macro sense, okay? Like, we come from the world of pro wrestling, right? Yep. One of the biggest influences that I had in pro wrestling was going to the video store and perusing the videotapes and being like, oh, I haven't seen that one. Oh, I haven't seen that one. And so you rent them, you take them home for 3 days, you don't rewind the video cassette. Blockbuster gets on your behind about it. Like, it was absurd, right? But that experience of going to the video store, right? That was culturally, you would see something that would catch your eye and be like, I need to see that. Right? Yep. Now, how do we go to the video store? You sit on Netflix and you scroll endlessly looking for something to watch, and the algorithm is entirely screwed up. All it does is show you stuff that you've already seen, right? How are we supposed to discover new media? And especially people our age, like we've hit that stage, Joe. I know how our parents felt now. You tune into the Grammy Awards, you tune into the Golden Globe Awards. I've never heard of this movie. I don't know who this musical artist is. I've never heard a Drake song. People tell me he's like the biggest artist in the world. I've never heard one single Drake song. Not one.
No.
But I know who Drake is, right? But I never hear his music because it's not inside my bubble, and there's no way for me to be exposed to it because I don't listen to radio anymore. I stream music off of my phone. The music that's on my phone is the music I put on my phone, and I'm not going to put Drake on my phone if I've never heard a song of his. And it's this vicious cycle that's tearing us even further apart and just sticking us into these echo chambers where we're just like, oh, like so-and-so is not a popular artist. I've never heard any of his songs. And then he goes and wins like 9 Grammys. Right. Like somebody is clearly listening to this guy. I don't know who it is because there's no physical media. There is no tape trading anymore. There's no way to share the music that you're just like, you remember making mixtapes? Right? Like, think of all the artists that you discovered because your buddy made you a mixtape. And there's just, it doesn't exist anymore unless you go out of your way for it. Like, I can create a playlist on Apple Music and I can share it with Joe. It's a complete pain in the butt and there's no like satisfaction out of it. You can sit down for like 3 hours to make somebody a mixtape and then you had something physical. You had your trophy that you were going to give to your buddy and it was going to open their eyes and they were going to discover Guns N' Roses for the first time and it was going to be life-changing. You don't have any of that anymore.
No, and
that was a hell of a rant, man. Give me a round of applause. That was a hell of a rant.
That was very, very good, man. And you had mentioned Blockbuster. I mean, not only with movies, but with video games too. I arguably spent just as much time in Blockbuster as I was watching or playing the stuff that I got from Blockbuster.
Absolutely.
You mentioned it was that whole experience of going in there and kind of perusing and just kind of looking and just. You spent time in the movie store, and that's just not a thing anymore. It's an interesting discussion because like I don't know if it's
oh yeah, and get off my lawn, right? Like lawn. Because I mean, like for somebody who's grown up in this generation, like for my kids. Yeah. They don't get what going to the movie store was about. We're just old guys sitting on the porch ranting and raving about it. But seriously, like to me, it's like a real cultural loss that we have experienced just through not having the physical media.
Because that's what I was going to say. Like, is it just a cultural thing, or is it because the technology has evolved too? I think it's honestly it's a combination of the two things, right? So it's the type of thing. And you had mentioned the get off my lawn part. Like a couple of years ago, like I'm literally coming home from work and there's kids scooting around on my lawn, and I literally said the words "get off my front lawn."
Yep,
right?
absolutely.
So I'm just like, oh no, I'm an old man now. This is not good. But yeah, man, it's even just in our time, like the first computer that I used, like honestly, just as big as probably like the desk that I'm working on right now, or at least a good portion of it. And then now, we have things that fit in our hand that are way more powerful than it. And dude, I have a lot of physical media. Like I have DVDs, I still have game cases and stuff like that. But it's the type of thing like I resisted it for quite a long time because I like having the things in my hand. But with digital, it is so convenient, man.
I mean, do you remember like when our generation, when we got cars, right? And the cars had a CD player or more than likely had a tape deck that you had the portable CD player with a little cassette adapter that you pop in that would work for like 3 days and then it wouldn't work anymore. But then you would carry around like the 500 cases of CDs so that we could, listen to whatever it was that we wanted to listen to. And now we have like 5 times that on our iPhone 15. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And with the evolution of Spotify, Apple Music, you have literally anything that you want to listen to, with the exception of Garth Brooks, at your fingertips.
Yeah, strange holdout in that, but
I know, right?
It's interesting with the two though. Like as much as it's tough because I do like to collect. I mean, those who are watching right now, you can see. I mean, I have a lot of stuff behind me. I'm a collector, but at the same time, like especially with movies and stuff like that, like I really got to a point where I was just like, okay, I have a relatively small collection of that stuff now, but it was literally getting to the point. It's like, realistically, how much of this stuff am I actually going to watch again? And it's taking up space. It's collecting dust, which is not necessarily good to live in. And I just literally got to the point now where it's like I'm fighting this transition to digital, and I'm just like I'm almost kind of fully embracing it now, quite frankly. So I know the big pushback from everybody is I don't own the content, which is very, very true. But I mean, realistically, though, I mean, I'm 43 years old now. By the time all that physical stuff, when I'm dead, who cares? Like seriously. I mean, it's not going to matter how much physical stuff that I have because I'm going to be dead. So with this way, I can just enjoy the stuff that I want to enjoy on whatever I want. I think that's kind of the big thing here, where it's that simplicity and convenience to just consume the content how we want. For me, it's worth the trade-off.
How many movies do you want to watch that you cannot find on a streaming platform somewhere?
Pretty rare. I mean, this one here that I held up, a rare exception, right?
For me, it's the Salton Sea. Like it's right. There's one that I can't find somewhere.
So yeah, I mean, you can get, and even with that stuff, I mean, you can get it legitimately if you want to. Not that I want to encourage that behavior because it is not good. Android boxes and that kind of stuff still not really legal. I mean, I've had that discussion with some people. Oh no, Android boxes are perfectly legal. Sure, the boxes themselves are perfectly freaking legal, right, but you're buying it so that you can circumvent paying for Netflix and all that kind of stuff. So I don't buy that argument. Oh no, Android boxes are perfectly fine. Hey, you want to think that way? Go ahead and have at it. But if you're doing it so that you can only have to pay once, and you will eventually, that's going to catch up to you. Your internet provider will at some point could be like, "Hey, what do you got going on there, bud?"
Now, here's the thing about this conversation that is so incredibly interesting to me, and I'm absolutely part of this, and I don't know why. But why is vinyl the exception? Right? Like vinyl went away, and then like 25 years later, it starts making this huge comeback. And now it's gotten to the point where vinyl is outselling compact discs.
Yeah.
Right? Like I looked it up earlier. Here, let me pull up the exact number. 49.61 million vinyl records were sold last year. That's up 14.2% from 2022.
Like, is that just domestically, or is that a larger number?
That's just here in the States.
Okay.
But why? What is it about vinyl that makes it the exception to this rule? And that is just, it's incredibly interesting to me. I know I have my reasons why I do it. Where did the balloons come from?
I went like this. That's the old Apple continuity camera. Thank you, Apple. Unwanted, but whatever. I have a theory. It's going to happen again. I'm going to hold up 2 fingers. See, it happened again. Sound quality on vinyl is. I don't know what's going on with this continuity camera. Now I'm getting a thumbs up thing.
I don't know, but it's amazing, and I'm very, very much enjoying it.
The sound quality on vinyl is incredible.
Yeah,
and I think the other thing, man, is that the artwork. You have that big thing that you can look at and kind of go through. There's lyrics, there's artwork inside as well. I think that those 2 things in conjunction together is what makes vinyl so popular.
I also think that it's the experience of going to the record store, right? Like the biggest record store in Indiana, of course, here in Indianapolis, Karma Records. I could live at that place if they would let me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you've got a big record store up where you're at, but really. It's an experience going to the record store and physically flipping through the albums. Or if you're looking for a specific album, first print, not the reissue. You need the first print. You know what I mean? And it's just fascinating to me, the incredible comeback that vinyl is making.
It's interesting because actually, this is going back a little bit now, but I was out looking on a day off, and you would have reminded me about a really cool album from back when we were kind of in grade school, right? Ex Neon Hombre from The Offspring, one of your personal favorites, something that I got reacquainted with and really love it. Ended up going to the music store that same day, actually, and they had a big vinyl copy out there. I'm just looking at the thing. I'm like, dude, this is cool. Like, if I had a record player, that would have been like mine, and I would have bought it home. Yeah, that experience is very much a thing that is lost with all of this convenience of the digital. And the other thing to take into account with this too, and where I think that this move towards this fairly aggressively over the last little while here needs to be done carefully, because I mean, the fact here is that there's still a lot of people that don't live in areas where really high quality broadband internet connections exist. There's a lot of people living in rural areas, right? So I think that over the next couple of years here, those people are going to be really left in the dark, almost literally, unless the infrastructure for these networks grows like very, very soon. Otherwise, they're literally going to get left behind.
And that infrastructure is not cheap, right? Like, I just got fiber here in Indianapolis. We finally got fiber.
Still waiting here. Don't have fiber yet. So
you know what I mean? So it's definitely a work in progress, but it's also come so far. Like, I hear people talk about, the rural areas and whatnot. It's like, well, yeah, but on the same hand, I do business with people in Montana that broadcast me their TV signal over the internet on a very, very daily kind of basis, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it's freaking Montana. That doesn't mean that it's good, but still, like, they have it in, backwoods Montana. Shout out to Montana.
Yeah, shout out to Montana. Yeah, man.
Hey, all your bacon burn, Montana. I have no usage for you.
Right. Yeah, man. It's the type of thing where, like I said, if they really fully want to go this direction across the board, because, like, I mean, even in the next console, video game console generation, because I mean, I speak to reps from all 3 companies, on a weekly basis, doing what I do for my day job, and they're all telling me that this next generation of consoles is going to be all digital, right?
My PS5 is digital only. My Xbox does take discs, but I think we have one disc, and it happens to be the one that came with it. But it does have the capability. My PlayStation doesn't even have it. It's digital only.
Yep. So it's going to be interesting. Like I said, I've resisted for a long time, but I've honestly fully kind of embraced it. I do, like I said, miss the aspect of actually going in person. And I think, especially with what we dealt with in 2019, 2020, and 2021, that really kind of started to facilitate that happening a bit more abruptly, that shift. Because, I mean, we're all sitting here at home. We can't go to the store. So I think that's really too when they really start to amp up with the digital distribution. It's changed very much. Like even where we'll kind of rail on digital distribution. Wow, words are hard today. On iTunes just basically doesn't exist anymore.
No,
right? It does distribute music to a certain extent, but it is a pain in the ass to
even if you're an Apple user, it's a pain in the ass.
This is one thing I will give Apple for, because like if you're in Apple Music and you want to just buy an album, trying to go in iTunes from there, it is not intuitive whatsoever. And interestingly now as well, on iTunes you could always get TV shows and movies. That has just been yanked out of there and slammed into Apple TV, that application. Yep. And that is also a terrible experience because you can't really tell, okay, am I just streaming it off this other service or am I actually buying it from Apple? What's the deal there? That interface there is just god awful, right? And this is a company that is known for, can be known for having really, really nice interfaces, but that whole iTunes and being lumped in, it's just bad. And
because
they need to change that.
We sit here and we talk about physical media, but of all these streaming services that I have, the one I could not live without is Apple Music.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the type of thing where, and that's getting more robust as well. They added one really cool feature, I think I mentioned on last week's episode. I think so. That you can now, because you had mentioned sharing playlists and that kind of stuff, you can actually now, see if it happens again. Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
You can actually collaborate with playlists with people, which I think is pretty cool. One thing that getting more into the kind of the digital stuff in Apple TV, I mean, I've started to get into MLS because I'm really kind of like, wrestling is kind of like worn off me at this point because it's just kind of pissing me off again. So I'm just like, you know what, I got to find a real sport to kind of get back into. I want to get back into Formula One as well because a lot of that's really intriguing to me. But like soccer, which I have never really typically been a fan of, right? I just kind of found a free one on there. It was like a recap match from last year. I enjoyed the hell out of it. So I have
that's how I got into Formula One. Right? Was Netflix, when they started doing Drive to Survive, it was just like, oh, I'm going to put this on. I like watching, basically any kind of sports documentaries, even if it's soccer or boxing or whatever, I just enjoy sports documentaries. And I just absolutely fell in love with it. And now if it's a Sunday and you want me to do something and there's a Grand Prix going on, good luck with that. I'm going to be sitting at home watching the race. I'm sitting here in my Ferrari hoodie, much like Lewis Hamilton. I've made the jump over to Ferrari.
Man. That's a huge thing.
Dude, huge. Ferrari made $7 million immediately from their stock price jumping up just from signing Lewis Hamilton. It's insane.
Was it Mercedes or McLaren that he was with, like the majority of his
career? He was with Mercedes.
Mercedes, correct? Yeah. That's huge to get him over to the Ferrari brand, man. That's enough to
$7 million in stock.
Right,
$7 million. I'm
gonna have to resubscribe to TSN so I can watch it once the season, because I know it's starting relatively soon. But
end of the month, yep.
Again, with digital stuff, I'm gonna touch on. We're gonna tie it into this now. I'm gonna give TSN Canada a tremendous amount of beef with this, because for a while, I'm hoping that this is improved now, because I think that all Formula One's gonna be available on TSN. But before, they used to. You could either watch it on depending on where it was, they would alternate between TSN and Speed Network or Speed Channel or whatever it was. The effed up thing with it, though, is that if it wasn't being shown on TSN, they were doing it on Speed TV, it would be blacked out. I'm like, well, then what was the point? Right? So I'm hoping that now that I think it's all just on TSN. If I want to go in with the Formula One, show me every race, please. If you start blacking out, I'm not going to be happy. Because I can't physically go to these races as much as I'd love to.
Yeah, take it up with Bernie. The TV rights for Formula One was 100-year contract. 100-year contract. They're good until 2109.
It's insane.
Which is just mind-blowing, right? But so you bring it up about Formula One. We come from the pro wrestling world. And like I was talking about, you would go to Blockbuster, you would go to RF Video, and you would see the wrestling section and you could peruse it, right? And that's how a lot of people got into pro wrestling, especially in our generation, because you would see Macho Man and Hulk Hogan on the cover of the cassette and be like,
Yep.
yes, I want to watch this. This looks awesome.
Yep.
How does a new viewer, somebody that's 9, 10 years old, if their parents aren't watching it, how are they supposed to discover it now? How many bands did you discover? It's just like, oh yeah, man, you like the Who, you should check out, this band instead. The experience of going to the record store. And it's all because of the death of physical media. And I absolutely believe that's part of the television ratings too. Like, once you're inside of a bubble of a TV show, you assume everybody is watching that TV show, and literally nobody is watching that TV show. Even if it is the news, ladies and gentlemen, people are not watching that TV show. On any given night, right, you might have 10 million people that tune into this news program, which would be a huge number, by the way.
Right.
That means there's 340 million people that didn't watch it.
Yep. Especially if you were watching, like, back a little while, if you're watching a show like Burn Notice, which I don't think anybody freaking watched.
Nobody was watching. Suits is a great example, right? Suits was on USA Network for years and nobody watched it. It went on Netflix and all of a sudden it's like this huge sensation and everybody's watching Suits. Like, I bet you the people at USA Network are pissed. We had this show and it's clearly a hit that nobody tuned in to watch.
Yeah, that's interesting because you tied it into wrestling. I didn't really want to mention, but you know what? I will. Because, again, we're talking about death physical media. WWE's out as well. They're not putting out physical DVDs anymore. So that's another.
They're going to Netflix.
They're going to Netflix. Interesting shift, especially given what we know is kind of going on with Vinnie Mac, but I
find that part greatly irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
But the part that I do find interesting is now you're going to have Netflix in order to see half of the roster. And even as popular as Netflix is, it's not that popular. Like Fox, you can get Fox in any home throughout the country for free over the air.
Yeah.
Netflix, you're talking, how many people in the United States have Netflix?
And here in Canada, it's become less and less popular, especially since they banned, however they managed to do it, to ban the password sharing. A lot of people here just
80 million subscribers.
Yeah.
80.13 million. There's 375 million people in the United States. So that's 300 million people that you're not reaching.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see, like just really our because again, we do come from the pro wrestling world. It's like, how many people out of those 80 million? Because wrestling for since the heyday, really kind of hovers around like that 2 to 3 million viewership, right? So I can't fathom 80 million people watching professional wrestling.
And they're not going to.
It's not going to happen, right? So. Yeah, man.
But the part that is hilarious for those of us who really, really despise the pro wrestling community.
Yeah.
The hilarious part is going to be watching all these people have complete meltdowns because they can't see the ratings. And they're going to have meltdowns over it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's stuff that I used to talk about as well. At the end of the day, enjoy it. Watch it if you actually enjoy it, and just enjoy it for what it is. What I hate most about the pro wrestling community is people don't have the ability to agree to disagree. It's like, I may like a certain thing, somebody else might not. Cool. It is what it is. You like that certain person, I can't stand them. It is what it is. Right. And that's something that social media is really kind of harbored. It's like, cool, you can have a different opinion, but if yours is different than mine, then you can't have that opinion.
Yeah, and now we have gotten to the point, not to get too political.
Oh, by all means.
But now we're getting to the point where if you have a different opinion than me, then we should throw you in jail and you are no longer allowed to be president. It's getting to that point here in the United States, and it's absurd.
I know people that were like family members or lifelong friends, and we're not even in the same country. And people are like, "Oh, if you like that certain, you and I can't be friends or family anymore." Sorry. Really?
Well, I mean, like,
really?
I'm not Canadian, obviously. I'm here in the good old United States of America. If Canada doesn't stop off their shit, they're never going to become a state. That's very much my opinion of it. But let me tell you something. I don't like Justin Trudeau. I have an opinion on Justin Trudeau. And if you like Justin Trudeau, I'm not friends with you. I'm just saying, like, that's how that goes.
He's an exception because nobody likes Justin Trudeau, right?
But clearly somebody does because he's still in power.
Dude, I can't. Okay, we might as well touch on it because interesting thing because, right? So when he was elected the first time, and as that kind of started to wind up here, just like, oh, I just can't believe, he got into power. He can't believe he's still here. Everybody kind of hates his guts, right? Election happens again. What happens? Dude gets reelected. He gets reelected. What? So it's just like either you're all full of or you actually secretly do like him.
It's the same thing here, right? Like Joe Biden has a 36% approval rate.
Yeah.
Number one, I don't know who that 36% is, but you're absolutely delusional. But here's the funny thing. He's probably going to win. At 36%, because the Republicans found somebody that's even less popular
that's what's
than 36%. And I just,
for me,
two of them, regardless of which side you're on, best case scenario, 60% of the people cannot stand this person. 60%. And those are the two people that we can find? Like there's nobody else.
Nobody else.
Really?
Nobody. Yeah, that's
I just throw my hands up, man. I mean, like I don't even know what to say to that. Like it's insane to me. It's absolutely insane.
Speaking from the Canadian standpoint, like I'm not sure if this would be similar to in the States, but ultimately for me, when it comes to politics, Canadian wise, and why I don't really spend too much time thinking about it or worrying what if or why is this. At the end of the day, from my 43 years here, regardless of who's been in political power in this country, it really ultimately doesn't affect my day-to-day life. So knowing that, it's not something I stress about. It's something I keep at arm's distance away and kind of chuckle. And it's like, oh, cool. That former school teacher who doesn't have a clue what he's doing is running the country. Cool. Does it really affect my day-to-day life? No. So you know what? I really don't care. Right. It's entertaining to watch. It's like watching, trying to flush that turd down the toilet and it just keeps floating back up to the surface. Yeah. It is what it is.
Turds. American politics in one word. Turds.
Oh, man.
Old turds.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, let's think about it. The last time that the younger generation was given the power was John Fitzgerald Kennedy, and they blew his frickin' head off. Like, old turds.
Absolutely.
That's pretty much what we have here in the States.
So ultimately, man, when it comes to digital media, circling back to our main topic here.
Well, yeah, circle back. Any chance that 35 millimeters of Zapruder film goes the way of vinyl?
Oh, man. I don't know. That'd be interesting.
I mean, I feel like the market is there. It's just 35 millimeter projectors are incredibly, way more expensive than a $100 record player, right? But I do feel like that market is there.
It is still there. Like it's interesting you mentioned that because somebody who really rails against digital distribution, Mr. Christopher Nolan, most recently with Oppenheimer, because they filmed that in black and white IMAX. They literally, with Kodak, they had to invent a new process, a new film for this movie. So ultimately, I think at the end of the day, in most cases, is digital media king and physical dead? Absolutely. But there is still, I think, some room for that, especially when it comes to film. I think that
it's the purists, right? Like you got guys like Christopher Nolan, there's guys like Quentin Tarantino, Scorsese that like are the purists of film. And at the end of the day, when we talk about this vinyl obsession, right? It's the purists. We want to hear it the way that it was originally intended to record, right? And like, there's even uproars when they take like a Beach Boys record that was recorded in mono and they convert it to stereo for, you know, Apple Music, right? Like, it's a big deal when you can find a copy of Pet Sounds that's still in mono, which I have, by the way. Yeah, yes. I'm that snob. You know what I mean? But it's a big deal, and it's for the purists. And I feel like that market is there, and that market will pay for it, right? Like it's nothing to me to go out and spend $40 on a record, but I ain't spending $20 on a new CD.
And the other thing as well with this, I think we'll kind of end off on this, where I think that there's still room for physical media. And I know that ultimately with this situation, death will be the fixer of this issue. And it's to do with we were calling ourselves old. But I mean, there's people even older than us that are even more invested in still latching onto the physical media. Like I said, you know, death will eventually take care of that issue. And I might sound cold-hearted, but it's the truth. But there's still a lot of elderly people. And if you combine that with them living in rural areas where there is no broadband internet, there very much is still a market there for physical media. So I think that completely vacating it from the market, like as a whole, I think is a little mistake and a little premature. So I think in like some of those areas, I think it's something they still need to embrace at least for a little while longer yet.
It's going to be interesting to watch because as more companies like Best Buy, like Walmart, stop selling physical media, will it even still be produced? That becomes the interesting part.
Yep. And they got to think big picture wise going forward as well, especially with you know, in Canada here at least, you know, with inflation still kind of being an issue. You know, is it really worth it putting in the physical resources to create the physical media going forward, right? So the cost savings there could be potentially worth it in the long run.
And you snobs out there, you know who you are. I understand vinyl. I understand the purity of vinyl. I understand the warmth of vinyl. Cassettes sound like do not bring cassettes back. No, this it's a thing. People are buying cassettes. Why are people buying cassettes? Sounded terrible years ago. Vinyl, I get it. Yeah. I get it. Cassettes.
It's interesting because we'll go into a little bit because a little bit of a history thing here. So before cassettes, we had vinyl. Again, it's picked up steam. Again, become very, very popular. I get people asking for vinyl all the time. You know, we had 8-track. 8-track is thoroughly dead at this point. The final 8-track
also sounds terrible,
right? The final 8-track ever produced was the Greatest Hits album from Fleetwood Mac. That was the last 8-track ever produced. Cassette tapes. I researched it. There are countries that still release cassette tapes. It's crazy. I look to try and find.
Are they like small countries in southern Africa?
Yeah, they're third world countries where it's still very much a thing, right? There's still a market there for it. Because I looked it up, I was
Destruction is a new album to them.
So I was like, what was the last musical album? That's right, I called them albums. Came on cassette, and I couldn't find it because they're still making them. It's still a thing in some areas. Right, so it's interesting. So, and CDs. I mean, I think it's interesting. I think music CDs will probably officially die before cassette tapes do, which is insane to me. So,
right,
it's weird, man. But we'll have to see how time goes. Like I said, I've kind of fully embraced the digital because I'm just so on the go with work and whatnot.
And Apple Music is the greatest thing in the history of the world. I mean, let's be honest about it, right? Like you literally have the entire history of music at your fingertips.
Yep. And to mention it again too, give the MLS thing a try. If you're already subscribed to if you have Apple One, it's like Canadian, it's like $16 a month. You can pay $100 a year and you can watch top-notch soccer. I know there's like Premier League over in Europe. That's like $200 for a freaking annual subscription. Spend like half that price, and you can watch some great soccer with the MLS. I mean, Messi plays for one of the teams there. He's the best soccer player in the world. So go enjoy that. And like I said, I may have to see about getting TSN again so I can watch some Formula One because I've had a hankering for some racing. I don't so much want to get into NASCAR. I think NASCAR is boring. The drivers are interesting. Formula One. Does it interest me?
It's funny because off of the popularity of Drive to Survive on Netflix and the explosion of Formula One here in the States as a result of the show, there's now a NASCAR version of Drive to Survive that just recently dropped on Netflix, and it's awful. I'm like watching it, and the racing is not good. They're just cars running into each other.
Personality.
They're old. They're rude. They're out of shape. I mean, like, I'm looking at guys like, Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, even George Russell, the little panty waist that he is, like, he is in immaculate shape, but these guys have to watch their weight very, very strictly because of the weight limit of the cars and whatnot. And I'm looking at guys like Denny Hamlin, and I'm just going, bro, there's no way you could drive in Formula One. Like, there's no freaking way.
So, disclaimer for a good.
And I like Denny Hamlin. That's not a rip on Denny Hamlin. I'm just saying.
The disclaimer. I wasn't a huge NASCAR fan, but I would watch on the regular for quite a long time. Where it started to die off for me, and this is going to sound a little pandering, but I don't care. Dale Earnhardt, Sr. I know he didn't like being called Senior, but when he died, my genuine interest for NASCAR died, because that dude had not only had personality, but just he had that presence. He drove like he always wanted to win. Like he would always be kind of on everybody's, like that mindset of like that real racer mindset is totally lost in this new generation of NASCAR guys.
Well, and like for me, so when I got into Formula One, I started going backwards because that's what I do. I'm a completist, right?
Yeah.
And so I went back and I started watching stuff like, the Ayrton Senna stuff, and going back to Prost, and going back to James Hunt, going back to Niki Lauda, going back to Manuel Fangio. Like, I went back, bro, and started at the beginning because I just fell in love with it. But like Senna said, if there's a gap and I don't go for it, then I'm no longer a racing driver. And as I watch NASCAR, I'm just like, go! Like, what are you doing? Yeah. Run into his rear end, just go around him. Like, what? It's infuriating for me to watch.
And where they've really suffered as a sport. I know we said we were going to end, but we're on a bit of a roll here. Another thing that I think kind of kills NASCAR, especially on these big racetracks. I mean, this could be potentially kill as an operative word here. On those big racetracks, like, it's tricky because I understand, but like restricting everybody to essentially running the same speed. I mean, it's literally. I think Tony Stewart said this when he was still kind of racing on a regular basis. He's like, NASCAR has become like professional wrestling. It's become like this thing where it's just like everybody goes and like everybody's going to crash. It's almost like that was like encouraged with the way like these cars are tuned and limited and whatnot. He's like, somebody's gonna die, right? This was after Dale Earnhardt had died with this crash, but he was like, it's like people are gonna get killed doing that.
But like you bring up Earnhardt and how it kind of killed your passion for it. On the other side, and this is probably the hot take of hot takes, right? It's the best thing that ever happened to NASCAR, because there are people that were like, oh, wait, people can die doing this? I want to watch that.
Yeah.
And I very much believe if you look at the explosion in popularity in NASCAR, it came right after Earnhardt's death. And it was because people were like, oh, people die doing this. I want to watch it all of a sudden.
Right. Yeah, especially because, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that them and college football are probably like the two most popular sports in the U.S., right?
Well, NFL is king. NFL destroys everything.
Yeah,
everything.
I will die on this mountain. I think that Canada needs an NFL team.
You have your own league, and it sucks.
Hey,
and Buffalo's close enough. You can have Buffalo. How about you can have Buffalo?
Isn't Buffalo essentially Canada anyways at this point?
Yes. And have you ever watched not the football team, the people that watch the football team in Buffalo? They jump through tables.
Yeah.
For no apparent reason.
Yeah.
Like, just to show their fan that they're out there moving the snow off of the field so they can play a game. Like, if that's not Canadian, I don't know what is.
There's nothing more Canadian in sports than a sport that awards you a point for trying.
That is incredibly Canadian.
It's called the Rouge.
Incredibly
It's
Canadian.
called the Rouge. If you go for a field goal and you miss it, you still get a point for trying, bud.
You know what? Dan Campbell, the head coach of the Detroit Lions, needs to go to the CFL immediately. They would have won that game if you got a point for missing a field goal.
Right? Oh man, that's
Shout out to our friends in Detroit. I have no friends in Detroit.
Yeah, I've been through Detroit once, and it scared the hell out of
It's
me.
terrifying, isn't it?
It's
like, I really want to see the Little Caesars Arena. Like, that place looks super dope.
More scenic than Buffalo, because I've been through Buffalo as well, and that's like basically like a big industrial park. That's what Buffalo looks like.
Go to Green Bay, Wisconsin,
It's like, hey, we want to go to Buffalo. I'm like, why would you want to do that? Like,
Green Bay, Wisconsin.
It's like, what's going on a trip willingly to Buffalo?
If there is not a game in Green Bay, Wisconsin this Sunday, you know what the most exciting thing to do is? Go to Walmart. Go to Walmart.
Buy some cheese at Walmart.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a wild Friday night in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Oh man! All right, dude. I think that is a good way to wrap this, man. This was a lot of fun. And
go Pat, go!
Right. So, I know for those really kind of reluctant to get on with the physical media or to do away with the physical media, I know giving up the ownership for this stuff is tough. But I mean, it's a future that
it is the way of the world. World Economic Forum. You will own nothing, and you will be happy about it.
We'll be happy about it.
Well, one thing before we get out of here, since this is either going to drop today, which is Monday, February 5th, or tomorrow, which is February 6th. Tomorrow, February 6th, I will be on the No DQ review to discuss the entire Roman, Cody, Rock, Vince, Punk, Seth situation, and I'm actually really looking forward to it, man, because it is a chaotic time in the world of pro wrestling. Also got Rossi Agawa, the head of Stardom, was terminated today, so that's some big news. And there's a lot going on in the pro wrestling world. Looking forward to talking about it. Check it out. Just search here into YouTube, you know, the vile creation that it is. No DQ review, and that'll be going live at 8:00 p.m. Anything you want to plug, promote, put over before we get out of here?
Like I said, just continue to watch this channel. Make sure you hit like and subscribe if you haven't already, and if you really enjoyed the content, make sure you can share it out as well. I'm hoping to have you back on, so I have a feeling March, April, we're going to probably see some type of Apple event. I think it's going to be the iPad stuff, so we'll have to get together for that and give our thoughts on it. We're not going to be able to show the stuff because I don't want to get on YouTube's bad side, because it doesn't take much to these days. So we will see what we can do when that comes out, because I have a feeling that we're not going to see any kind of radical design changes. It's not going to be like a triangle or like a pyramid or something, but it's still going to be around a rectangle. But I have a feeling that there'll be some cool stuff there. I'm looking forward to it. So.
It's one of my favorite episodes of The Office. I absolutely love the pyramid tablet.
I'm going through again. I'm like halfway through season 4, so I just I watched through The Office, and then when I get to the end, I just start over again. It's like one of my favorites.
When you get to the end this time, go back and do 30 Rock, because 30 Rock is quite possibly the most intelligent show in the history of TV that nobody watched.
Very underrated. Very much so. All right, man. I will let you. I did it wrong again. I will let you send us off in style, my friend.
All right. Well, I guess that's it for us now. We are off like a prom dress. See ya.
HTM Tech is brought to you by Microplay, located at 265 King George Road in Brantford, Ontario, Canada, for all of your video game and collectible needs.